The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
I share one thing in common with our president, which kind of irks me, but we're both mixed race individuals, so we can celebrate that.
I know who you are. People, I'm a big fan of Erik, and the Reverend Wright story. You talk about a guy that vanishes off the national scene, Reverend Wright. Tell the story that you did that time, Erik, and that's when we first met.
Oh, you mean the background on Wright? Yeah, it was early 2007, and people pretty much knew that Obama was going to declare for president. And there was a Chicago area journalist who sort of tipped me off as to what was going on in the Trinity United Church of Christ, Reverend Wright's church that Obama had attended for 20 years. It was just due diligence on my part. I wrote a column about the church's Black Liberation Theology Manifesto, and that got picked up by the press, and it took a while to gain some ground, but that was sort of what set the ball rolling with the whole Reverend Wright thing.
You and I have spoken about this before. When we ask the question, who is Barack Obama, and historians call things bona fides or a historical record of his life, his health records, those things. Who is Barack Obama? Do we know, Erik?
No, America doesn't know who he is. There are a few different theories out there, some wilder than the others. But with regard to, for example, his origins narrative, which I don't believe for a second, I'm not willing to come down unequivocally as to who sired this or bred this person, but I do know the background that he came from, and that it was a sort of a amalgam of radical communism and Islam.
Yeah, I have been, and I wear the jacket proudly, a birther, and it's interesting. One of the sidebars is, local news outlets used to live off of me, and letters to the editor and websites about me. All that stuff's gone away, and
isn't that funny?
Yeah, I used to go out of my way when people would write a column about me or cartoon me in the papers about being a birther or do a website, and I would go out of my way. And it's one of two things that happened. They would either not return my call or my text message, or say, I will not appear on your hate show.
Right.
And that's all disappeared.
Yeah. Well, what I think is kind of interesting is that there are quite a few talking points that folks like you and I have been using in public for several years that people put down to being tinfoil hat conspiracy theory nonsense, yet several of them very, very serious, grave issues that we used to talk about, people would roundly ridicule us, and they've all come to pass.
Oh, indeed.
So I think they want to hedge their bets at this point.
Of all the cities in the world, and Barack Obama is tied into Jakarta, he's tied into Hawaii, he's tied into Southern Cal, he's tied into New York. Why, after he comes out of law school, does he, of all the places in the world that he has no contacts with, here's my question, why does he choose Chicago?
Well, I don't know if he chose Chicago or if Chicago chose him in the sense of the operatives. They had a ready base of operatives that he had been working with previously, that was their stomping ground. Bill Ayers, a lot of these Weather Underground types, who of course his ties go back decades. With some of them.
Frank Marshall Davis was from Chicago.
There you go. And so I don't know if the choice was his so much as it was, that's where you're going to go.
Because I've kicked that one over with people that, like yourself, that I have so much respect for, and I think, if he goes back to L.A., if he goes to Hawaii, even if he goes to Jakarta, or maybe even to Karachi, Pakistan, or New York City, but Chicago. And then they try to give him all the street cred that he was a guy from the neighborhood, and he wasn't.
Of course not. Of course not. I mean, this guy has And that's the thing, if you're a proud birther like we are, of course we've looked at his background, but the real issue here is that the guy's never been an American in his heart, and that's if that isn't evident to people by now, they're never going to get it.
What I love about you and respect about you and so many others, when I ask that question, who is Barack Obama, they say, I don't know. And when we're watching this, this not going to France, and now they're like cats in a sandbox about not going to France, but you never see, and I have friends who have looked at his patterns of support. He always supports Islam, and we have talked about that moment where he stands in the UN and makes that statement. The future, and I'm paraphrasing, does not belong to those who, I guess, desecrate the name of the prophet or words to that effect.
Yep.
So it gets back into that musical question, Eric. Who the hell is the guy?
Well, vis-a-vis the whole Paris thing, here's the deal. This guy has supported financed, armed, trained terrorists, period. Islamic terrorists, both clandestinely and under the guise of, arming the moderate Syrian rebels. This guy should be wearing an orange jumpsuit. He should be in an international court for crimes against humanity, for the thousands upon thousands of people who've died since the Arab Spring, which he almost single-handedly catalyzed. This guy is an international criminal. So when he doesn't go to Paris, he's saying that these guys got what they deserved. That's what he's saying.
I agree. I've tried to make this case and took a lot of heat for it, that those murders that took place, they weren't because of free speech. They were because of jihad.
Yes, they insulted the prophet of Islam. Yeah, so these guys have a right to go kill them.
They didn't go to that magazine and kill them because they drew cartoons of rabbis or drew cartoons of Catholic priests having sex with little boys. They killed them because of jihad.
Exactly. And of course, that's the thing that the politicians in the Western press are dancing around, and it's ridiculous. It would be funny if it weren't so dangerous, and that's this radical Islam versus Islam. There's no distinction. They're the same thing.
I get to the point, and I wrote this down for myself as a topic for the radio show, 9/11 until now. Who's winning?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah. Because we're laying down and dying, basically. The average American person is not laying down and dying, but our government, and with this president in the extreme, is just abdicating its role in the world, which was his mission. But I'd be hard pressed to find a Republican who would do a whole lot better when it came to standing up to these people.
They won't, sure.
So many of them are in bed with each other and have been for decades. Muslim Brotherhood, let's have cocktails with them. And no, you shoot these people. You don't have cocktails with them.
I wonder what the future brings. I saw the Turkish President Erdogan on Monday. He's blasting Netanyahu for daring to show up. The French president obviously did not want Netanyahu there. Not only does the president not show, Biden doesn't show, nobody shows, and I'm watching this and thinking, I'm not a fool, I'm not the smartest guy in the world by any stretch, but I'm not a fool. This all looks like intent. And now what?
And again, D.C. Examiner Byron York has a piece out there where he puts this down to more, bad decision making on the part of Obama, and I'm thinking, you people just don't get it, do you?
Yeah.
This guy is an agent of evil, plain and simple. Anything to bring America down, pick one. He'll be all for it.
I ask so many people that I respect in the Obama life story, Eric, will the time come when guys like you and I will actually see or hear the truth?
I think so. I think so. I think it's going to wind up being a very sad time, and it'll sort of be one of those, you know, scenarios where it's, I don't know what's the metaphor that they use, sort of a bittersweet, you know, victory. You know,
because you know it's a con. I mean, I say this, that the Clintons ran a grift. This guy's running what they call the long con.
Yep.
And I think there's a difference. Yep. I think the Clintons are grifters.
And you know, with the quiet but very active importation of tens of thousands of Muslims that this guy has done, you know, he's setting the stage for, you know, perpetual jihad, even long after he's out of office.
There's this new line: the radical Islamist wants to behead you. The moderate Islamist wants the radical Islamist to behead you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You know, when people talk about, well, why don't the peaceful Muslims, you know, stand up against these, you know, radicals who are doing all the killing? And I'm trying to tell them, you know, this is like telling the congregation to throw the deacons out of the church.
They can't.
They can't. They don't want to.
What would you like to leave us with this morning? What message would you like to the audience?
You know, my message is, it's about time that more people started looking at this person who occupies the White House with, you know, take off the rose-colored glasses. Yeah. You know, this guy is not Steve Urkel. This guy is the devil.
What I'm amazed at, and like I said, for 6.5 years, the cartooning, the website attacks, and all this kind of stuff, and I got big shoulders. I realize that's part of the job. None of them would ever stand to, and say, well, then can you answer this question about his life, or why can't you see these reports, or why can't you see any of his, medical records, travel records? Doesn't matter. The birth certificate's a con. And now they vanished. Does that mean that they are licking their wounds? Does that mean that they're coming to terms with what they have believed? Or does it just simply mean they've pushed it totally out of their path or out of their field of vision?
I think that it's probably a combination of all three. In some instances, I think some people aren't talking about it quite as much because they are hoping against hope that we weren't right, but in their hearts they know we were.
That's right. I think that as well. I think down deep inside, the CBS News, the Denver Post, others, they know that the questions that and I'm not making statements, I'm simply asking questions. And that's the part that I don't believe they can deal with.
No, and it's kind of ironic because, that's what they were supposed to do from the onset of all of this. But, we shall see.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.